My name's Chris.
And I'm Kristie.
This is the Washing Up Podcast, and it's Biscuit Week.
Woo! Bickies galore. And we meet the Bicky bandit Cal Wilson tonight. But before that, we open with their Bicky... what's a card game starting with a B?
Baccarat.
Is that really it?
Yeah.
Not Burt Baccarat?
No, that's Baccarat.
Oh, okay, sorry. Baccarat is a card game?
Yes.
Because I just thought of one. Bastard. Is that the one?
It sounds like one of those games where there's 15 million names for it.
Shithead, that's right.
Shithead. Again, there are games out there. There are a number of different card games where like everyone's got a different version and it's shithead, bastard, asshole, something like that.
Yeah.
We've got off to a great start, by the way. Just swearing at the audience.
Yes.
Welcome. This is how we all anticipated to start Biscuit Week, of course. Was lots of swearing at the audience. But look, this was a really fun week.
It was so pretty. I loved watching everyone's designs come to life, and games. We're going to wax lyrical about that. So let's start with let's get into the signature, because we do not want to. I don't want to spoil everything and just start on all my tangents now.
You know that, yeah. I was going to say, they've watched, right? Also, by the way, while we're recording this, we are actually currently eating an Anzac biscuit, so it's appropriate for Biscuit Week. So I made Anzac biscuits the other day. I will post a photo to Instagram. They are the size of a human head.
See, I challenged Chris because I went to a new. I think it's not new, but there's a new chain called Excess Espresso. And I was at them last Thursday. I'm meeting someone for work, and they served the coffee with this tiny little wafer of almost like an Anzac biscuit, but it was like an Anzac biscuit cross brandy snap. It was just the best, and you couldn't buy them separately. And so I challenged Chris, and he's now working on it. So I said they were small. His are the size of a hockey puck.
No, they're big, much bigger than a hockey puck. They are the size of a human head. I actually held one up in front of my face the other day.
Oh, okay. Well, they're head-sized.
They are head-sized. If you want biscuits that are head-sized, ladies and gentlemen, I'm your person.
If anything, my husband is generous.
I am. Anyway, let's get to the pre-credits, because we got a risk it for the biscuit joke.
Beautifully done.
Not just the stock standard normal pun of risk it for the biscuit. We had the card game. And what a game. And there was some absolute brilliant performances in this. Darren Purchase.
Oh, look, he's one of the best, what's it called?
Croupiers
I've seen in a while. Not since the movie The Croupier.
He could work at Crown or the Star if it wasn't for the fact that those institutions are not necessarily the greatest at
Casino
the moment.
Regina, and we've got a hookup for him, Jody.
Yeah, Jody from the Great Canadian Baking Show.
I'm assuming that's what Darren's going into. He's like, stay tuned for my next adventure. It's not baking or desserts. It's going to be Purchase Casino.
We could get Darren Purchase to go to Casino Regina and work off our penalty. Because we're still trying to work off our massive fine from Canada. That's why we can't go back.
Yeah.
Anyway,
back at the ranch.
Back at the ranch.
The shed.
Nat was brilliant in this, especially with the hit me. Then they went off and did the bit in the last week, blah, 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 cut back to her going, I think I've got a pair. And that was just really well done. So the signature. The signature this week was 12 decorated fondant biscuits.
Yep.
Now, any size or any flavour, but they had to be two different shapes, which is interesting. Normally, in these sorts of challenges, you get two different flavours.
Yeah.
They went two different shapes.
Well, that then challenges people to think about the cooking time and using the oven, which is a bit of a theme throughout this whole episode.
What I found really interesting was that this was also where the people who did different biscuits had to do different cooking times, and sometimes they did, and sometimes they ignored everybody's advice. Bonjour! And
I just had an idea, right?
Oh, go on.
What if you... no, fuck it. If I was going on, the two different shapes I'd do is a 6 and a 9.
You live in the gutter. Anyway,
But then you get away with it. They're two different shapes. Sure, they're one upside down. But...
Oh, no. Anyway. We started. Now, I must have missed something. Why was Gav blowing up a rubber glove?
Oh, because it's one way you do it, and it's not It's not hygienic, Gav. I'm sorry, but like coming from a nursing background, you just rub the ends together.
Yeah, but it didn't look like he was blowing it up to put it on. It just looked like he was inflating a glove for no apparent reason.
Maybe he was trying to do some like early Halloween decorations.
I mean, look, if he'd done spheres or chocolate spheres or things like that, it would have made sense. Blowing up the glove, or you know, if he'd done biscuits as a handprint, might have made sense. But he blew up this
3D
glove.
Hand biscuit.
Hand biscuit.
Like things just walking along. That's cool. Do one shape as a thing and one shape as an it.
There you go. But he blew up that glove, and I was thoroughly confused and a little bit disturbed. Because it just looked like he was blowing up gloves. I'm like, is there a purpose? Are we bored? Meanwhile, Reem mentioned that she was using fruit instead of an egg, which was, I thought, really intriguing as well.
But we didn't get more into that. So
No.
if we ever get to speak to
Reem,
Reem, I want to
please.
know.
Yeah.
Tell us your fruit secrets.
What are your fruit secrets? Now, can I just point out, Adam...
Maybe she has an egg tree. Maybe she's like, her dad's some kind of like, her dad is like a scientific genius and he's created an egg tree.
I'm assuming it's on TikTok.
No.
When in doubt, I assume it's on TikTok. By the way, that is not... People are going to possibly take this the wrong way through this series of me mentioning TikTok. On the contrary, food talk is a thing.
Yeah.
And food talk is amazing.
And good food talk is great. What isn't good is those life hack talks
Yeah,
that are just shithouse.
Also,
and
if
dangerous.
you find that the food talk person that you follow is being done by Tanea with her "Everybody's so creative," probably stop following them.
But everybody's so creative.
Everybody's so creative. But for example, if you see
Anne Reardon critiquing them,
if you see B. Dylan Hollis doing something on TikTok, get all over that.
Yeah.
These are the people, you know. But again, there is some really good Bake-tok is fantastic. I highly recommend it. So, and I like the fact, and we'll talk about it in a little bit, but Reem used a hell of a lot of tricks from Bake-tok. And that's really good because...
And you can tell she's watching Bake-tok because it was the other shitty TikTok. She'd be going, "What is it, love? What are you doing?" "Well, I'm taking this biscuit tray and I'm just putting it down here and it's going to have nothing to do with the next 60 seconds of this video." Those couples, like, seriously, dude. Oh my God. That's what's wrong with the world today.
A couple prank videos. Anyway.
Yeah. Ones that they say, this is made for... What's it called? Entertainment purposes only. I was like, this is not entertaining.
Oh, love, watch this. Oh, no, you accidentally burnt our house down. Oh, fooled you. This isn't our house at all. Anyway, back at the shed. Adam. Now, before we talk about Adam's biscuit choice, I want to talk about Adam's badge choice. Now, I loved the concept of Adam's badge choice. Yeah. But, Adam,
if you're going to
your badge said it's cake o'clock.
No, but you know why? He's in the baking scouts. He hasn't done his biscuit. He'll wear the biscuit badge next week because he's completed the biscuit. He did the cake week last week and he completed that. So he wears a cake badge.
So you're saying it's cake o'clock is his cake badge for last week for completing cakes?
Yeah.
Okay, Adam, can you please confirm if that's true or not?
And I'm assuming next week you'll
has
see
a
him
biscuit
with a biscuit badge.
Biscuit badge.
Yeah,
okay,
yeah.
This could be fantastic. We're 1 week behind.
It'll say he risked it.
He risked it. Oh dear. So Adam made speculars, and I love speculars.
I know you do.
They're fantastic, but
snappy and gingery.
I love the way
like you.
Snappy and gingery like me, exactly. Can I point out? I really love the way that Adam decided to double down on proving these are Dutch. He didn't just go, "I'm making speculars." What are they shaped like? Windmills. What are the other ones shaped like? Canal houses.
I'm just disappointed they weren't clogs. That would surely have been an easier...
Clogs and dikes.
Clogs and dikes.
As Julie McCrossan once famously said on Good News Week, "And how do you clog a dike? With your finger." Anyway, moving on. Natalie. So Natalie was going with an Earl Grey and lavender cup and a chai tea bag.
Nice choices.
Nice choices, nice balance. I like it. Yeah. Look, I like a good tea biscuit.
You like to drink and eat it with your coffee.
Yeah, exactly. I love eating tea biscuits with my coffee. And Rachel did, however, warn her there about balance. And again, when you're using lavender in particular, much like we said last week with Reem when she was using rose water. But again, Reem got that balance absolutely spot on. It's those things can overpower.
I think people are becoming more aware these days of the potential to take it from delicious to
Potpourri.
toilet duck.
Yeah. Is
it delicious or toilet duck?
There's PSAs out there, I'm sure.
Yeah.
Have you ever eaten a biscuit that's not quite right?
Well, if you overset the biscuit right, you just wrap it in a nice handkerchief and pop it in your top drawer. just leave your underwear nice and perfumed. Like, who came up with that? And why were those gifts so popular in the 80s and 90s? Like, why did my underwear have to smell like roses or lavender? That's just creepy, dude.
It's a bit weird.
I was a child.
That's very weird. Anyway, moving on. Because we need to move on to talk a little bit about... So Felicity... They cut to Felicity, who's got a hand in the middle of the bowl going, you're not supposed to eat raw cookie dough.
When you're
Too
pregnant.
bad. Yeah, didn't care.
Yeah. Oh, no, not at any time, because we don't have pasteurised eggs. That's the only issue.
I do anyway, but, that's just me.
Live on the edge,
That is me living on the edge.
I grew up on raw cake batter, It was always a fight for who got to lick the...
Oh, beta, exactly.
The beta?
Completely.
Yeah.
If you think about that logically, the amount of raw eggs that we've all consumed...
I know, we're fine.
And, we're perfectly normal.
Is this what's wrong with...
This is what's wrong.
This
is what's wrong.
Yeah. This is what's wrong with the world.
I'd like there to be this scientific paper that now comes out to suggest that licking the beta is what the problem is.
Yeah.
It's a cause of depression, anxiety.
The combination of metals and
raw eggs has led to a generation of anxious, depressed people.
Yep. Oh, and artificial vanilla.
Oh no! Actually, if anything is going to be to blame, it will be the artificial vanilla.
Yeah.
Then they cut to Sandra. Now Sandra decided to use the fact that she's got sort of two nations, and the wattle seed and the maple syrup.
Yeah, she's now able to claim the Canadianness in the tent.
Yes, because
in the shed,
because obviously no Guillermo, R.I.P. Guillermo, and
yeah.
he's not dead. He just went home. But
he might be
No, he's not. We spoke to him, and people remember. If you haven't listened to our podcast with Guillermo, please go back.
No, we know he's alive. Okay. But do we know if he's been turned yet or not? He might have finally earned...
He went back to Staten Island with his vampire hordes, yes.
Yes.
Yes, he's back there with Nandor. No, but we know for a fact he hasn't been turned. Nandor refuses to do that. We've got a lot of What We Do in the Shadows content, people, and Guillermo went home far too early. So that's going to continue.
Yeah, we'll find powder to burn that on.
She's going in.
Powder to burn that on? Fuck it.
Let's go with it. Anyway,
sure.
Let's go to Galia. So Galia, with her vintage tea party in honour of her love of vintage porcelain cups.
I loved her concept.
So blueberry lemon and raspberry lime.
Oh my god. We'll get to the execution of it, but this is my fave.
Yeah, it was a really cool concept. And I love, one of the things we've seen already from Galia is the way that she, her handcrafted designs.
Yeah.
She's florally very good. Flowers, she's very good with flowers.
Yeah.
The one she did last week, the piped buttercream ones that she did last week was stunning.
Yeah.
That's one of my last, but that was stunning.
She's like a floral goddess.
A floral goddess.
She's a nymph in the Bakeoff shed.
Then we go to Gav.
Yes.
Now, Gav, look, he did a macadamia lemon myrtle with peppermint in there. Now, we'll talk about the lemon myrtle in a moment because I want to talk instead about, they did a couple of these little shots of them at home and what they've done at home and all these different things they've done at home. And I'd love to know the concept and the request behind making the laughing cow cake.
And was it a cheesecake as well?
I really hope so.
That was fucking brilliant.
But those laughing cow wedges were superb.
Yeah, and that cheese is a hit or miss. Sometimes it's great. Sometimes you're just like, why did I get this? I should have got another cheese. Like a Baby Bell.
Exactly.
If I want individually wrapped cheese, there's only a few options that we have.
Now, I once made, if you all remember the panda
stringers.
If you all remember the panda commercials, for the panda commercials from the Middle East, which were the don't mess with the panda.
Oh yeah,
yeah, where they go through and they get the wrong cheese, and the panda would turn up and kick the trolley over and punch them all and smash their desks up.
Yeah.
And I once, for my brother's birthday, I made him a handmade wheel of panda. It was just Laughing Cow, with the Laughing Cow stickers removed and panda labels made and stuck on it.
Nice.
And he kept that in his room until he realised that it was cheese. And it went off.
Oh, no.
Really badly.
Oh, Andrew.
Just, you know why. Anyway, if you've not seen the panda commercials, by the way, go to YouTube, look up panda cheese, and just enjoy the commercials. They're spectacularly good. Moving back on with Gav,
Yes.
because Gav also pointed out the impact of Bake-off, because Gav's like, I'd never used lemon myrtle in my life, and then I watched Bake-off, and everyone else was using lemon myrtle, so I started using lemon myrtle. So literally the only reason he used lemon myrtle was he saw it on Bake-off.
Peer pressure, but good advertising.
But we talked about that with Darren,
Yeah.
where the other week when we spoke to Darren before the series started, and Darren was talking about, we were talking about the native ingredients and the fact that lemon myrtle is becoming more popular.
Yeah.
We talked about Davidson Plum, obviously, who kidnapped you in a.
No. They took me.
They
for
borrowed you for a re-education clinic.
They invited me along to enjoy some Davidson Plum in a beautiful Davidson Plum mothership. And they were so friendly, and I really appreciate the time that they took to make sure that I experienced that. So thank you, Davidson Plum, and I implore everyone to try some Davidson Plum in their life.
If you're using plums,
it's quite good.
If you're using plums, use Davidson plums.
Only Davidson Plums. They'll know.
Anyway, moving on. Now Laura.
Yes.
Now at this point, Laura, they only showed her making the shape, so we'll talk about what she made in a minute. But she was making quavers.
Yeah.
Now, I wanted to know if she made minims, could she get away with only making half the biscuits?
What about a demi-semi-quaver?
So obviously then, again, if she'd gone out and made a minim is 2 beats. So technically, if she'd made minims, she would have only had to have made 3 biscuits rather than 6
Oh
of the
my
quavers.
gosh! You're thinking of it. What if she just did a rest? Like that, like a
Well,
full rest?
What she could have done, she could have done minims and semi-breves. Because if she'd done a minim, there's 2, and a semi-brief is 4. So between the 2 of them there, she could have got all of the challenge done. In fact, she would have been over, because a minim it would have been 1.5 semi-briefs.
The unfortunate thing is she would have to have somehow indicated the time signature. Oh,
That is true. She would have had to work out the time signature as well. And I mean, technically, then she probably also should have included bass or treble clef to work out where the notes are supposed to be. There's a whole thing going into this, far more complicated than I thought. But again, a minimum. If you'd done minims there, Laura, you could have probably got away with only 3 of those biscuits rather than 6.
yeah.
Just suggesting future reference, trick for future players.
She could have done a stave. I mean, that's 6 lines.
Could have worked beautifully.
And then she could have set up...
There we have 1 stave. Done.
Yeah, done.
Now, even though she didn't say it this episode, bonjour Laurent! So, we cut over to Laurent. Now, I do have a question, though, which is, are they making a deliberate effort to break up who speaks French to him? Because Darren was doing it this week. It wasn't... At no point did Rachel do it.
No, I'm sure they...
I like the idea that they broke it up and they sort of went, all right, I'll be the odd weeks, you be the even weeks.
There is a French roster, what they do not show is the Pig Latin roster.
I wonder if you could request that they speak to you in Pig Latin.
Yeah, and apparently Alona this time got the Japanese roster.
We'll talk about Alona in a minute. So Laurent was making vanilla shortbread Eiffel Towers and coffee Palais Breton cups. Now, at this point, Darren said to him, and Rachel both said to him, you got different oven times going there? Because they're different temperatures. And he's like, I'm going to start them both low and then turn it up to make the short... And, you could see Darren was concerned about 2 biscuits that are going to bake at vastly different temperatures.
But the other thing Laurent did too is choose... He has ostensibly did 3 different shapes. Because he did the Eiffel Tower, the base of the Eiffel Tower, and the cups. Like that.
Yeah, and there were 2 parts to the...
Yeah.
It was just... It felt like overcomplicating something.
He did a floor.
It was flooring it. It was overcomplicated for the sake of being complicated when it just needed to be simplistic.
Yeah.
Then we got a Reem. Now this is where Reem broke out the TikTok tricks with the marshmallow fondant,
and this is how you can tell Reem watches Food Talk not shit talk.
Exactly. So again, marshmallow. And again, if it was one of the crappy versions, it would have been just put marshmallows in there, and they will happily make you a wonderful fondant. No. She's like, no, you've still got to mix it in with the sugar, with the icing sugar and stuff. But it will make marshmallow fondant, and very clever, very clever. And this is making use of the good trends.
Yeah,
that's what's really important there. So I thought that was genius. Apple and banana. And she made a juice box and a milk carton. And that was
very cute.
Very cute.
Yeah.
Then we move on to...
Surprised she didn't call it a popper, though.
Yeah, they were called juice boxes. I was confused. It's very American.
What do the New Zealanders have another name for them? Maybe they do call them juice boxes as well.
Possibly, but who really cares what they call them?
I know. They're poppers. And then we're going to get someone from Perth going, no, they're a...
No, it's Devon. No, it's Berliner. No, it's Fritz. No, it's... Yeah.
No, it's a potato scallop.
No, it's a potato cake. No.
They're swimmers. No, they're jandals.
No, swimmers and jandals.
Yeah. Come on, Chris, keep up with it.
Oh, wow. Anyway, moving forward.
Put my togs on.
Felicity. So we come back to Felicity, who then says what she's actually making.
What state uses a Felicity to describe swimmers?
Perth. So Felicity state Perth. Well done. It's Western Australia. Anyway, peppermint clouds on chocolate. And so she had the dark chocolate mixture there. Darren warned her about marbling the colours and mixing them all together and making one colour rather than four. Which felt like he felt the need to warn her for the sake of it.
Yeah.
Because you looked at the marbling on the thing and you're like, no, she's fine. They're very clearly four
I'm an expert.
colours.
I'll just say something expert. It's cool though because they're all finding their feet, and that's fine.
Look, Darren had a really good episode actually.
Yeah.
Darren was really good in this one. He came to life.
His French was wonderful.
His French really added a dimension.
Yes.
Meanwhile, we cut back to Laurent, whose non-stick pan wasn't quite as non-stick as he thought. And this is where Laurent started blaming his tools. And I don't want to be too critical, Laurent, but a tradesman doesn't blame their tools.
But then
it felt like the temperatures thing was the problem.
Yeah, there was a bit of an uneven bake going on there too. So like you could see it in the different, like the ones that stuck were quite dark. So I don't know. I don't know. I'm not an expert. I just sit here on a podcast.
You're not an expert?
Shit. Yeah.
I thought you were...
I know.
I have been operating under the pretense that you're an expert the whole time.
Sorry, I did lie on my my resume.
I interviewed you. I interviewed you for this position.
You did, but the questions...
Who were the references?
Potentially...
Were they real?
Well, we had Somni, our cat, Leo, our dog, and myself was the third.
Oh, you were the third reference?
I was, yeah.
I should have
gave
checked
myself a glowing reference. Except I did flag that I can be tardy.
Yeah, you did. Leo gave you a really good reference, though. Anyway, moving on. Now, Laura's biscuits...
She calls me the goodest boy, and that makes her the goodest person.
Laura was making choc mint biscuits. And again, this is where they talked about instruments. They were talking about she played a bit of violin, and she also played the saxophone.
And apparently...
And so did Rachel Koo.
Yeah.
Well, she said very badly.
Yeah, I think her and I both had the same level. Her with the saxophone, me with another reed instrument, the clarinet.
Well, that's right. We both played clarinet, didn't we?
Yeah, some better than others.
I got very good at Stranger on the Shore. I got amazingly good at Stranger on the Shore.
My mum was so determined that I'd be like, is it Acapulco or something?
Acapulco. Stranger on the Shore.
Oh my
That's
fucking god.
If you played clarinet growing up.
I wanted to be like the cool girls all playing flute, and I could have been like Lizzo, but no.
If you grew up playing clarinet, all you were told about was Acapulco, Stranger on the Shore, and that was literally it. And it was just, you've just got to be Acapulco. And I'm like, surely there's better. And look, Benny Goodman played bloody clarinet. Why am I talking about Benny Goodman? No, Acapulco. Look, play clarinet like a man that looked like Thomas Keneally. He looked like Thomas Keneally. Blow that whistle, ref. Send that clarinet soaring. Blow that whistle, ref.
I don't know who Thomas Keneally is.
Schindler's List, the guy who wrote the book.
Oh, okay, sure. Great. Cool.
Who also did the Blow That Whistle Ref NRL campaign years and years ago.
Really?
Yes. After they lost Tina Turner, or stopped the Tina Turner campaign, the next thing they went with was Thomas Keneally doing a poem, which was Blow That Whistle Ref, send that ball soaring, blow that whistle. Because if there's one thing we know that rugby league fans appreciate, it's poetry.
Did an Australian write Schindler's List?
Yes.
Why? Okay. Cool. I knew that. I'm getting educated tonight. I'm not feeling stupid at all. Can we talk biscuits?
I'm
pretty good with biscuits.
So Alona.
I watched this show.
So Alona made bento-style biscuits. It was a shortbread.
I know what bento is. Thank God we're back in territory that I'm comfortable
It was a shortbread that looked like bento and looked like sushi. It was spectacular. Now,
very cute idea.
She goes, it's all about the idea of clean lines and achieving precision. And she's like, it's a little bit like me. No, it's a lot like you, Alona. Yes. The idea of perfection and precision. And like we saw last week, the clean cuts on those cakes, the clean layers on those cakes.
Yeah.
Like this was the perfect challenge and the perfect representation.
Like I could not be Japanese. One, I'm Australian, but two, they would like disown me. I don't know if there is an island that I would be cast out to for all the people who are messy. Like it's like how they have a fox.
Probably Kyushu.
Yeah, they have an island full of foxes, an island full of cats and stuff. There's just the messy people island, and that's where we are.
Everywhere,
eating our deconstructed sushi and bento boxes.
Now, what I really liked was they said they got Alona to say, I've been working on conversational Japanese, and then she said, "Nice to meet you, goodbye." I hope there's more to your conversational Japanese. I have a base level conversational Japanese, which is why I don't know what she said. And I'm like, nice to meet you, bye. But
it's if you're in a rush. You got to catch the train because we know the trains are all on time in Japan.
It's not
she's practicing to say a quick hello and goodbye to people, so she's not impolite and still able to get her train on time.
Well, remember, of course, if the train is late, you get a note from the train company telling your employer that you were late. They actually do that. Sydney trains could never adopt that. But they would deforest the earth if they had to issue that many notes. See, my favorite
physically, not electronically.
My favorite Japanese sentence is my favorite Japanese phrase is "Gemo wa shimasho," which is "Would you like to play a game?" Which would be useless, except in the last challenge in this Bakeoff. Then it would be really useful.
Yes.
And the other one is the line that Bill Murray was taught during the filming of Lost in Translation, which is "Dari ni mo katemono itandayo," which means "Who the hell do you think you're talking to?" Now, at this point, we cut back to Nat standing at Felicity's bench, and that's where she's like, this isn't good. I don't like this. I love it. I couldn't do this judging thing. It's just so hard to do. And I love that it was the most perfect Matt Preston impression ever of that stupid thing he did in the early season of MasterChef where he's like, this is disgusting, and throws the plate on the ground and then looks at the camera and goes, disgustingly good, and smiles.
Yes.
Like, that for me represents the lowest point of Australian television is Matt Preston's disgustingly good. Then Neil gave us his, which was he made the butterflies, which were vanilla shortbreads, and just very Neil. Again, clean, precise, accurate.
Yep.
And then Laura gave us some really good life. I think this is advice to live life by: head down, bum up, piping away.
I'm sure that's what some bagpipe players when they're practicing. Where are you, Willie? Head down, bum up, pipe it away.
So the judging,
Yes.
Neil, they said had great decoration. Rachel said that had a really good crumbly texture. Sandra, Rachel said again neat piping. Darren said that he loved it and it was cooked absolutely perfectly, and the wattle seed was delicious, but a bit softer than anticipated. Reem. They said it was delicious. They loved the different techniques, and it was baked perfectly.
Yeah.
Laura's biscuits melted in your mouth. They really enjoyed those.
They looked so good.
Now, Laurent only ended up with 5 cookies. nice and light, but lacking the coffee flavour.
Look, he had Paris in various iterations.
Yes.
Pre-Eiffel Tower and post-Eiffel Tower.
Yes, and they were lacking the coffee flavour though, and the oven temperature was probably not right. Darren sort of said that was the issue. So he had all of them for one side, but only 5 for the other side. Alona, they just said impressive, and then they moved on quickly.
Impressive.
Adam, they said that there was no snap to his speculars. It was a problem because Rachel goes, a specular has a really good snap bend. And you're like, oh. They needed a lower temperature bake to dry them, which is, again, really good advice for people watching at home.
Like, it makes sense, but I didn't think of it. It's like rendering bacon to get it crispy. Render your biscuit to get it crispy.
Makes perfect sense to me. They did say the flavour was really good, however. Natalie's, they said, were aromatic. They said the lavender was actually subtle and worked quite well. They said the problem was the chai had big bits of spice in it, and Darren took a bite. It's like, I just got a massive hit of chai.
Yeah, which, you know, if you're getting a great big cardamom pod in your face...
It's going to overwhelm you.
Yeah. But great accessories, you know. Like, I think Cal's onto it. You know, biscuit earrings. Also handy if you're stuck, you can't get, you've gone out to a theatre, you can't get out at intermission for whatever reason, you're minding someone's bag, or there's a huge queue at the kiosk. So you can just break off
your earring.
Break off your earring. Have a little munch.
There's definitely a marketing job in that. So Felicity, they said she had a lovely balance with the mint and the chocolate, and the rock sugar that she put on top in particular was quite clever.
That was so pretty.
It looked amazing, as they said. Perfect, identical snowflakes. Never happened before. Gab's was really neat, but he was missing the second tier, and this was genius because Gab just turns around and goes, well, I saw Nat and Cal hanging around, and they were nicking bits and pieces. They must have just nicked the extra biscuits. That was absolutely genius.
Good work. Good use of the
well
hooks
done,
right
Gab,
there.
well done. Macadamia and myrtle dough felt a little bit overworked, and they said the mint was too subtle, and it's very rare that you ever hear them say mint is too subtle. Normally it's mint is overwhelming. Then we have Galia. The raspberry was amazing, lots of flavour, good tartness, and the citrus flavour in particular that she used was very vibrant.
This is so pretty. Like, I just loved the porcelain look on like, I don't know what it is about that kind of pattern. It just makes me think of high teas and Jane Austen and all the good things.
It's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
So, the technical. Once again, we got another host moment. So, I loved when they talked about, this has been set by Darren Purchase, who took over the Willy Wonka factory and gave them reasonable working conditions and casual Fridays.
What would an Oompa Loompa wear casually?
Do you want to know?
Like, they couldn't wear an hoodie. They'd just be like moving laundry because they're quite short and the hoodies are quite big. So
they'd disappear inside an hoodie.
Yeah.
They also included one of the best ones. They're off to judge the new spin-off about Australian animals called The Great Australian Snake Off. That was really well done as well. That was a good work from both of them.
Yeah.
And the advice was no wonky wheels. You were making Darren's 5 explosive chocolate wheels. 2 hours and 15 minutes.
I'm starting to sense a trend in these technicals. Last week, we had the fear of an explosive technical cake.
This week,
explosive wheels.
I'm picking up another trend. Last week, it was covered in gold leaf. This week, it was covered in gold pop rocks.
I know.
Rochelle Adonis is making a fortune.
Is this the kind of, like we have to go and get, like, shitty Fizz Whiz and whatever as kids. Is this what William and Harry got? No, trick or treat, Grandma! Oh, here you go, kiddies! I've just got some of the pop rocks from the vault for you.
I love the idea this is a little bit like, Ron Howard's children in the episode of The Simpsons when they're going to the zoo. Oh, you even take your kids to the zoo. No, but it's a famous zoo for celebrities with animals you've never heard of. But Daddy, we're going to miss the Fantastopotamus. She only performs twice a day. Very much the same, same sort of vibe here. So,
yes.
Okay, so what this was. Vanilla marshmallow with roasted banana caramel, peanut and choc chip cookies, coated in milk chocolate, and then topped with gold popping candy. Now, I don't like banana, and I thought that sounded good.
Yeah, but the banana's encased in caramel, so it's like, and as Darren said in some of the critiques, like there was one about the caramel needing the banana to cut through it. It's like, I think it just gives it, like, the whole idea of this, the whole flavour profile, the whole texture, just seems like the ultimate wagon wheel. Like, we're just getting shitty wagon wheels. This is the kind of wagon wheels that Wills and Harry
Fantastipotamus wheels.
Yeah, Fantastipotamus wheels.
So
explosive Fantastipotamus wheels.
So back to our explosive Fantastipotamus wheels. The key to it was, they said, silky marshmallow. In particular, the sugar syrup needs to go into the marshmallow at the right time and the right temperature while being consistently moved to make sure it binds together. Now that felt, yeah, sure, okay, that makes sense. But when we got to the judging, that ended up being one of the key critiques, especially for poor Nat, who'd never made marshmallow before.
Nat, what you should have done is, like, seen if Reem had any left over from the day before.
Suddenly just go to the microwave and make it yourself.
Or is this the moment Reem's gone, oh shit, I knew I shouldn't have eaten some of those as snacks. Should have kept some.
Could have kept it.
Yeah.
Also, if the caramel goes too far, it will be very bitter. But at the same time, it couldn't be too blonde. It needs to be right in that sweet spot. Now,
a redhead. That's a sweet spot between brunette and blonde. Speaking as a redhead.
So.
Yes.
Neil came really close to saying, this is my week.
Ooh.
Because he said that this challenge was right up his...
Licorice.
Yes, he said it was right up his alley because it was very technical.
Oh, Neil.
Now remember that for about 2 minutes' time. Now, Natalie, again, admitted that she hadn't had to do most of the elements that were there, including, especially marshmallow. She hadn't had to make that level of marshmallow before.
No.
Adam then basically...
Have any of us really?
Adam then, it's not something we all do in common, everyday life.
The closest I get to making marshmallow is whacking one on the end of a stick and toasting it on the fire. That's the only time.
Taking it out of a bag and putting it in hot chocolate.
Yeah.
Either or.
That's the only time I interfere with a marshmallow.
Now... Adam also then didn't so much drop some salt as send his entire container of Tasmanian rock salt flying, which was both disappointing and worrying, but also a really good advertisement for the rock salt.
But also kept the demons out.
It did. Did a great job. Then we come back to Neil, who goes, I'm now making
PSA, a line of salt is not how you do protection and cleansing, by the way. And speaking of TikTok, there is this one... Okay, so witch-tok is the bane of every pagan's existence. And there is one trick that is just bullshit. And this is people filling hula hoops with salt.
What?
So they have an instant protection circle. It's like, you guys have watched far too many Hollywood movies where they're pouring salt in a circle. It's like that. That's not how this works, darling.
You're like, I've got to clarify a lot of things here.
I love Hocus Pocus, but just because you put a foot... Anyway, moving
on. Because we go back to Neil.
Just don't.
Because remember, Neil had just said...
Unless you're going to turn it into a salt shaker, and that would make a pretty fucking cool salt shaker. Like a whole hula hoop full of salt that you can just shake. You could wiggle it on your hips and salt everyone. It's like standing on the Lazy Susan. You're the lazy salter.
It's new Salt Bay.
Yes, you
forget sprinkling them on high. It's hula salting.
Ooh, that's a new burlesque routine. Anyway.
Moving on. Because we go back to Neil.
Yes.
Because as I said before, Neil said this was right up his alley because it was very technical, very precise, all of those sorts of things. Cut back to Neil, who says, now I'm making this up as I'm going along. The speed at which Neil went, nah, just abandon hope, all ye who enter here. They didn't give them a time that they had to cook any of this for, by the way. That was the thing. It was the bananas were 20 minutes or until they're browned, but then everything else, the biscuits were just bake.
Yep.
So none of the rest of it had the timings on it.
Yeah, but that's what the technical's for, is to test your knowledge.
Exactly, that's what I'm saying. That's where we started to get this. I also really love the Cal and Nat dynamic, where Nat will start losing it and just start going off, and Cal will have to ground her and go, no, come with me.
I feel like that's essentially where you and I land.
Very much
I'm always having to rein you in.
Yes, exactly. You're always having to keep me very grounded.
Like, you just coming out with things that people do with hula hoops. It's insane, Chris. You really need to calm the farm.
I will focus in the future, I promise.
Thank you.
Now, Felicity says that she doesn't like the smell of banana, and
She's pregnant. There's so many smells that would just fuck her up. I feel sorry. How did she deal with the durian? Like, how did she deal with last week?
I mean, I'm here with her on banana.
Yeah, you are.
I really dislike banana.
Oh, it's... Like, I get it. I'm not going to judge because peas are evil.
Peas are evil, but
Yeah.
I really dislike banana, so I'm very much with you. Solidarity forever. She also likes really dark caramels, which felt a bit foreboding early on, but as we saw with the challenge, went beautifully for her.
Yep.
Let me come back to poor Neil, who's gone from, this is my sort of challenge, I'm comfortable, I'm calm, I'm controlled, to, okay, I'm making it up, to Neil just going, this isn't going to get done. The speed at which Neil's decline happened in this challenge, I felt so bad for him.
But we've all had those days at work, haven't we? Like, like, you know, we've walked into the office.
Like, I got this.
Got this. You've got your coffee in hand. You know, you're just feeling good, and then it happens. Something just changes. A phone call, an email, and you're like, well, that was a nice 5 minutes.
And the rest of the day is downhill.
Yep, downhill.
So this is the next bit where it got really tricky, where the sugar syrup needed to get to temperature, then needed to go into the marshmallows. This was the really tricky bit. But then we cut to Laura to talk about her love of baking and her love of yoga.
Now, Laura, have you combined the two? Are we going to see Baker or Yaker?
I mean, Baker feels like the return of Lou Baker and Mambo number 5. Are we going to see Baker? I don't know. Is he touring with the Venga Boys?
So do you think Yoka then? Or does that sound like it's egg-based?
I mean, yeah. I mean, look, a lot of people who do yoga are going to be vegan, so that probably turns them off that concept.
Yogaking.
Yogaking? That sounds like Yogo.
Yeah.
It sounds like Yogo's involved. And look, if they want to sponsor it,
Yeah.
don't think anyone will say no to that.
No. Yes, maybe...
Maybe Boga, not Baker.
Boga. Okay, let's go Boga.
Let's go Boga. Anyway.
Now it sounds like we're cheering on someone in an
Some
NFL.
Some form of sports team.
A sports ball peoples.
Yeah, and then Reem sort of gave her bit to camera, which felt very 20-year-old. It's got to the right temperature, so that's good.
So if you're doing baking with yoga...
Oh, we'll go back to that again.
Right. Okay. Biscuits, for example. Like, you could do a downward dog with a biscuit in your face and you could dunk it into your tea. Then you can come back up and then you can switch it around so you get the dunked bit in your face. Okay. So that's how I'm envisioning it going. Okay, back at it. Sorry, Reem.
So then...
Yes.
Adam announced that there was too much chocolate.
Yes.
And you were visibly disappointed with him.
It's like, Adam, there's never too much chocolate.
Although the judging would disagree with you.
Yeah,
But
sure. He's like, look, I'm going by judge rules, not Kristie rules here.
Adam's like...
Who rules this shed?
Adam's like, Kristie, I love this for you.
Yeah.
But I'm going to go with your own purchase.
Yeah, I'm with Rachel on this. Okay, respect that.
And at the end of this challenge, Sandra gave us probably one of the most accurate Bakeoff statements I've ever heard after a challenge. Mm-hmm. It's a delicious train wreck.
Look, we've all had those in our lives. You know, you've made something that looks like shit, but God, it's still going to taste good, isn't it?
But that's the important point. Like, a lot of the time, one of the things I think that... I mean, obviously the phrase ugly delicious has become more and more common, and obviously was a full series on Netflix. But one of the things I think that Instagram... And look, I've railed for a long time against Instagram food trends. Not a big fan of them. But my main reason for that is that I think that it's easier to make something appear pretty than taste good.
Yeah, that is true. There is that whole,
it has
adage
to be
of, you eat with your first
eyes,
your eyes. But, if you're getting if you're getting served up an old family casserole or something that you know is fucking good, you don't give a shit. You just give me that.
I frequently post stuff that I make to the washing up account and things like that.
Yeah.
But there's a lot of stuff that is really delicious that I don't post because it doesn't look like you could post it, because people look at that and go, what the hell is that? But it tastes really good.
Are you worried you'll end up being told that people are so creative?
Yeah, everybody's so creative. No, I make things that are legitimate, not things that but like it's like we made fun a couple of years ago. We did make fun of on MasterChef when they had a baking challenge on MasterChef, and they brought in somebody who was an Instagram baker, and I can't remember which one it was.
Yeah,
but got them to make this really amazing Instagram, and I was like, wow! And what it was a checkerboard cake with red fondant.
Yeah, it was ombre though. Don't forget that.
But it was the most ridiculously simple.
And how many
cake.
hours? Weren't they given like?
They were given 3 hours.
That's right. It was.
And they did not. And at the time, the people that were in that series of Bakeoff were just laughing. Actively laughing because they were like, "Are you kidding me?" And it wasn't like a snobbery thing.
No.
Like this, and it wasn't like week 1 of MasterChef. They were several weeks in at this point, and it was one of the easiest cakes I've ever seen. And it was literally a checkerboard cake with red fondant over the top, and set like it was this amazing challenge because it looked pretty.
Yeah, but the thing is, right, is MasterChef is about cooking. It's not necessarily about baking. It's about preparing meals, like entree, main, dessert. That's where the focus is. It's not a baking like.
Yeah, but if you give them a baking challenge in there, they should be able to do it. And it was a vanilla cake.
But I see cooking and baking as two different art forms.
They are completely, but again, that's not on. For me,
is it a cooking show or a baking show?
But for me, that
or is it a caking show? Oh, hold on, wait.
But for me, the criticism of that goes back to that idea of if you're going to do that challenge, then you've got to wear the consequences of it. Simple.
Yeah, true.
Anyway, back to this one, which is a much better show than that one. The judging. Felicity. They said it looked amazing on the outside. Good crack on the chocolate. The cross-section looked really good as well, and it was amazing. Really good biscuit and good caramel.
Yeah.
Neil, they said it wasn't as neat. All the elements were there and they were good, but the fact that he went so thick with the biscuit and meant that he needed more filling to balance it out. And that was something that became a common thing.
That would be rejected by Wills and Harry.
Indeed.
Yeah. It's what Princess Charlotte and Prince George are waiting for Mummy and Daddy to bring home to them.
Well, Laurence would have been rejected too because they didn't have enough candy on top.
Where's my popping candy?
Also missing the marshmallow. Like there wasn't enough marshmallow there.
I'm sorry. I'll go speak to your grandfather about it. The king.
Adam, a bit thicker on the chocolate, as we pointed out.
Yeah.
A lot of biscuit, which meant that there was a lot of chocolate and a lot of biscuit and not enough filling. Reem didn't let the chocolate drain off first of all, so that was quite evident on the lip.
One biscuit. On one.
1 out of 5.
Okay.
1 out of 5.
She should have done 8 and just hit it under one.
We'll talk about that in a minute. I want to talk about that because genuinely I want to talk about that. So they did say that it was good definition on the inside and the banana had a really good intense flavour.
Yeah.
Gav's had really good candy. Chocolate looked good. Caramel was good. Needed more marshmallow. I'm not surprised that Gav's had good chocolate. Gavin has shown that he is really good with chocolate.
Yeah, he's a bit of a chocolate baron.
He is.
He's a Count Chocula.
Laura's were all perfectly identical, but
be sued.
Laura's were all perfectly identical, but the caramel was a little bit too light. Needed a little bit more inside.
Yeah, because unfortunately her caramel, it looks really good to put inside something that needed a hard caramel ball. Like my mum's... I told you about the popcorn caramel thing my mum used to make.
Yes.
That's the consistency of the caramel. Yeah. Anyway, back at the ranch.
So Galia.
Yes.
Now, this is where we have a bit of an issue. So she gave it 8.
Yes.
Good caramel, but needed more banana. Now,
you know why? Because she divided amongst 8 biscuits, not 5.
So, look.
Do you think it was a smudge? Like she just smudged a bit of chocolate or something on the page? Like I know they're laminated, but maybe a bit of something got on the page and instead of it seeing 5, she saw 8.
So the thing with this is obviously it impacted the way that it came out because the banana was not as thick as it should have. My other thing with this one though is that part of the reason for like setting 5 is because then you've got the same, it's the uniform nature. With 8, you've got more of a shot of like, well, can we find 5 good ones?
Yeah, but do you think she also thought Cal and Nat would do their job and eat the
And
extras.
they didn't?
Yeah.
Yeah, but you don't put them on the plate.
No, you got to put them on a separate plate. Galia, that's your problem. Like, you've got to have your little offering plate to the host.
Yeah,
Tucked off in the corner there.
Yeah, it was a bit of a weird one too. It's one of the first times I remember
And
anyone.
you need your little offering box that you send to the podcast hosts.
Yeah, it's one of the first times, by the way, can I say, that I
send
ever
them mail to
remember somebody over delivering, but not like by one either.
No.
Like severe over deliver there. Now Sandra's, they said they were rough and they were lacking the caramel. Like the caramel's almost non-existent in poor Sandra's. Alona's a similar size and good balance of candy and really good layers. And Natalie's, they said lots of gold candy. Again, we shouldn't be surprised. She has the gold touch, as we know from last week. Her quote from last week. Her quote from last week was, of course, "Gold equals winner."
Yeah.
The marshmallow was very wet, which meant that the syrup hadn't been blended into the egg whites while it was up to speed. So, Sandra was last, then Nat, then Galia, then Laura, then Adam, then Neil, then Laurent, then Gav, then Alona, then Reem, and Felicity wins the technical.
Well done, Flick.
She had a really good job there.
Although I think she's at an advantage in that she's got two brains working on this.
or another brain draining her energy.
That's true.
Either or.
You know? Oh no, she was at a disadvantage because she also had the sensory.
Yes, the sensory issue of banana. Exactly.
Yeah.
It's a bold effort.
Oh, which I imagine just lead to nausea and all kinds of things.
Anyway, the showstopper.
Yes.
You know, as Chris Isaak once famously sang, "It's a biscuit game." No, wait, that's wrong. That's wrong. So biscuit games.
Oh no,
Now-
I wasn't impersonating him. I was just yawning.
Yeah, you were. So biscuit games, and I loved Nat's little bit here about, you know, it's actually as it sounds. Although a gravy train is not actually and a cat burglar is not a. So I also like the fact they encouraged.
And sunstroke is not the sun padding.
No, they encouraged moving parts that can be played. Some people, well, most people, mastered that concept. Hello, Laurent. We'll come back to him. When they started, it was very brief. But Natalie maxed out the capability of her smeg mixer.
Yeah.
There was so much flour. She started, she goes, gently. I'm looking at it going, I don't care how gentle you do that.
I haven't seen, like when she was, and then later when she was prepping it to put in the fridge to cool, I'm like, I have not seen that much cookie dough just from a home baker.
No.
You know what I mean? Like that's industrial size.
It was mass production.
Yeah.
So we then cut to what I'm now referring to, not as table talk, but corner chat.
Yes.
Now again, I'm still a little bit concerned. I was more concerned this week because they actually showed them standing in the corner talking with bakers around them, and then they did reference it when they had Cal and Nat go, "What do you reckon they're talking about?"
Yes.
And then they were talking about the idea of, you know, casual clothes Darren and how weird that would look.
Oh. Yeah. I think the closest we've had is him in Chef's
Yeah.
Lights for MasterChef, and even that's formal. Like chefs just don't go. You go.
I know. Croupier Darren was pretty cash.
He had a hat on.
He had a visor.
With a band. Oh, he did have a visor on.
Yep.
What was I thinking of?
Felicity and Reem were both doing well.
I love brains and how they misremember things.
So Felicity
Did we even watch Bake-off?
So Felicity and Reem were both doing well.
Are we recapping a current affair at this point?
And then Tracy Grimshaw said no. And Galia, Laurent, and Natalie were all in a bit of danger.
Yep.
And it was really interesting because we've got a hit on the game card, but not a direct hit on the game card. This is an incidental hit.
Oh, that's right.
The incidental hit is that Rachel said that Natalie has already told us that biscuits are her thing. That is a hit.
Yes.
She didn't say it to camera. I wonder if it got cut out because we have it on the game card.
The editor's like, quick, they've put up the game card. Cut that out.
They're onto the "this is my week" thing. They're onto it. Just get them to say it to the judges. Yeah. So Laura made a mahjong game, which was spectacular. So before we get into what they all made,
yeah,
the obvious thing that's coming up here, what board game
Oh my God.
would you have gone with for this? Because
Okay.
there's a lot of different options here.
Jeez, okay. Okay, so one I would have brought back from my childhood. It was called Monster Mash, and I don't know if you had
Yes.
it, but it was essentially like a typical roll the dice, go forward game, but you had plasticine and you had your little plastic monster's head that you put in your plasticine, so you could shape whatever your monster looked like. But the best thing was is if you landed on your opponent, you got to literally mash them. So I would have made Monster Mash because it would have been fun.
I've got a short list. So my short list is...
Mousetrap.
Yep. Mousetrap was
Yep.
my first one on the short list.
Mm-hmm.
That was my first one on the short list. I thought about Risk, but there's so many things you've got to make there.
Catan.
Not Catan. I thought about that too. So my list is... So there's 3 games on my list. I thought about Monopoly too, but again, there's too many properties to make.
Yeah.
But, so this is where I went. So the first one I went with was Mousetrap.
Yes,
Because that would be really cool, especially when you could have the falling basket, obviously. 9.5 hours to set up, 2 minutes to play. Secondly,
Yep.
Crocodile Dentist.
What?
So Crocodile Dentist was the game where you had the crocodile set up with the mouth open and you had to pull the teeth out of it. And one of the teeth, when it pulled out, the crocodile would snap down and come after you.
Like Pie Face.
A little bit like Pie Face.
What about Pie Face?
I mean, that's
you could
too
literally
obvious.
do Pie Face.
The third one was Test Match.
Oh no.
Because you could make biscuit fielders, and you could make the biscuit bowler and the biscuit batsman, and you could roll... You could make Test Match quite easily out of biscuits. I don't know why we didn't have a biscuit Test Match.
What was another? There's one my parents had, which was like a joke.
See, most of the games we
Australian
play
one.
now are card based, so
Yeah.
they don't quite work. Muffin Time doesn't quite work unless you make real muffins.
Yes, and then everyone's muffin time.
And Secret Hitler's a bit boring.
Yeah. Oh, you could do. Actually, Secret Hitler would work because you got a small board and tiles, so that could work.
That would definitely work.
Yeah, I
Trivial Pursuit, I was surprised nobody made.
Yeah, but that again is quite labour intensive. I think the dartboard idea was
The dartboard
genius.
was absolute genius. So let's get into what they had.
That's technically a board game.
Let's get into what they made, shall we?
So could you have made Pin the Tail on the Donkey?
No, that's not a board game.
Okay.
That's not a board game.
But similar to a dartboard. Oh, it's a dartboard, not a donkey board. Okay. All right.
Not a donkey board. Anyway, moving on. So Laura made Mahjong.
Now I want to make a game called Donkey Board.
Gingerbread board and sesame tiles.
Yeah.
Black sesame tiles. They look really good, by the way.
Yeah.
Natalie was making backgammon. I love it. I mean, I'm always fascinated because backgammon is a game that everyone sort of knows about. I don't know many people that actively play backgammon.
Yes.
Right. Like, we had a backgammon suitcase, because that's how it comes. It comes in a little suitcase.
Yes.
We had a backgammon suitcase that, I was infatuated with for years. Never learned how to play backgammon.
No
It
one
just
does.
looked really cool.
Yeah. Wasn't it?
It was a game that I always felt like old people played.
Yeah, like World War One soldiers. It's like, ooh, tippity pop.
Yes, in the trenches, if there's one thing we know about...
I'm a bit bored of this chess thing. Let's play some
If
backgammon.
there's one thing we know about the soldiers on the front lines in World War One, they were bandits for backgammon. Now, once again, the biscuits were orange, chocolate, and tahini. Rachel did, again, sort of wonder about balance, and it's really important. The cocoa balances and the chocolate and the tahini one, the balance as well.
I think they missed a trick though, because could have had chess on one side, and if they're smart enough, the inside could have been
Checkers.
Battleship.
Oh, Battleship would have been cool.
Oh my god, Battleship is a board game.
I mean, that would have been a lot of extra work, as we talked about. The
Yeah.
Battleship could have been... But then you go really out there and you make electronic Battleship.
We only had electronic Battleship.
Yeah, see, my cousin had electronic Battleship. I had normal Battleship. I wasn't allowed to play it because he's like, I can't be bothered getting that down.
Oh my god, I hate cousins like that. Oh my god. So I had lunch recently with... I got to admit to someone I was jealous of their Barbie collection. Because she was one of those lovely young women who... And we've all had a friend like this. People will know these people who have everything, but you're not allowed to play with anything unless they let you play with a specific one. I couldn't play with the Barbie camp. I was not allowed to play with the Barbie camp. She had all the Barbies. It was sad.
Anyway, Remade Operation, which was the correct answer for this whole thing.
That was brilliant.
Operation, there were two, and look, it's obvious from most people, I think, what the two big outstanding ones were. Darts is a very close third. But Operation was one of the two, and that was genius.
Bloody hell, yes.
Raspberry and peanut biscuit. And Cal at this point made the offer to make the buzzer noise.
Yes.
And sure enough, she came through like an absolute hero.
She does not make a promise she will not keep.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Gav. Darts.
Fucking genius.
I was looking forward to the idea of we could finally, as Greg Davies once said on Taskmaster, there is a sentence I've been dying to say, and if somebody actually managed to hit a target here, I can say it. And someone threw a dart and hit a balloon, and Greg Davies went, magic darts. And I was really hoping that when they were throwing the darts at the dartboard at the end, someone would go, magic darts.
Well, obviously Rachel Koo's dart flew through...
It was very magical.
Yeah, it flew through the dimension into Koo Cottage to her dartboard.
So, chocolate and peanut dartboard with coffee ganache.
I thought that was interesting because, like, it's a pub game. Why not make a Guinness flavoured, like a stout flavoured bicky to go with?
Well, there was booze in the bake. But, yeah, they said not enough. But please.
Then coffee liqueur. Yeah.
Then we get to Felicity. And Felicity made hungry hippos.
Now, this was the childhood game
This
du
was
jour.
spectacular.
Yes.
So, marshmallow and a sugar biscuit, a brookie bank, pistachio and raspberry powder, and as she said, she hand piped the hippos.
That's a fabulous choice.
And it worked.
It did. However, you couldn't play it like you would normally play Hungry Hippos, which is like smashing the fuck out of the board.
Hungry Hippos was, look, I would argue
it was
that when people talk about black boxes on aircraft, and they talk about, why don't you make the whole aircraft out of a black box? No. What you need to make an aircraft out of is the plastic that the handles were made of for Hungry Hippos. Because they never broke.
That's the whole thing is like, as I'm sitting here watching this, and I'm watching the judges do the hippo nuzzling that we saw, I had that thought too. I'm like, the feat of engineering that went into Hungry Hippos, was it just a guy from NASA who got bored with just doing aircraft and, as an aside, decided to create a children's game that was unbreakable?
Oh, because literally, everybody I know gave
Adults,
the handles,
children,
gave the handle of those hippos a workout, and they never snapped.
No.
They never. If you managed to snap a handle, let us know, please. I'm really interested to see if anyone did it.
You're more inclined to send balls flying out of the hippo pit, than you were to break a hippo's head flying off was more common. I never saw
the hippos' heads were more common coming off. Was there? Did you have any other board game or any other mishaps or breaking things? Everyone broke Mousetrap. Not deliberately. It was just that it's complicated. Again, 9.5 hours to set up, 3 minutes to play.
Look, it's more the interesting things that we'd use to substitute pieces of a game that went missing. So for Mousetrap, we had a couple of mice go missing, so we just borrowed some Monopoly tools. So instead of Mousetrap, it was like catch the dog.
Dog catcher. My brother had one of the. My brother had what was the name of the game? It was another mouse based game, but. Where's the cheese? I think it is, which is a game you play with that cat. Yeah. But you had a little mouse and you put it on the middle of a board, and the idea was you were trying to get cheese.
Yeah.
And somebody had a plunger, and it was literally you plunged onto the middle of the board to catch the mice. How people didn't die in that game, I don't quite know. It was brutal.
This is
I'll look it up later
so
on.
typical of the 80s, though. Like, kids these days...
kids these days they don't know anything about their pink peppercorns. They know nothing about pink peppercorns.
No.
But
almost dying playing a family-friendly game.
And not so much a board game, but I do remember that I did smash the front of a fireplace with a marble once. We were playing Army Men.
Yeah.
And we had the armies lined up, and it bounced past the other army and perfectly, it just made a marble-sized hole in the front glass of the fireplace. Nothing else broke, just a marble-sized hole, perfectly.
Yeah.
That glass cost a small fortune. My father was not happy. Anyway, moving on. Galia.
Yes.
Now, Galia made an elephant jigsaw, and they were making jokes about the elephant in the room. Galia, I'll tell you what the elephant in the room is. I'll tell you right now.
Fuck me.
We have a hit, and we have the first one of the season, matcha.
Oh, Galia, I'm sorry, darling.
Matcha. That's the elephant in the room, Galia.
I'm just going to go make myself a cup of tea.
How many times, how many years do I have to stress? Stop using matcha.
Look, I would
Mocha,
speculate.
matcha, and dragon fruit.
I would speculate the reason why that bake failed is that your like fetch, your like inner demon just escaped to the shed.
The shed
to haunt that particular bake.
The shed is on my side.
It's a curse. It's the Buchanan curse.
The shed is on my side, and the shed has learned not to trust matcha. It's that simple. The dragon fruit was quite cool as an idea. So let's move. The other big elephant in the room, by the way, is Darren Purchase loudly announcing that he likes matcha.
He didn't mention that during our interview.
So
Kept that on the DL.
So I mean, look, I think that the important thing that
Thank you for that, by the way, Darren, because we would not have gotten through that interview. It would have just been hours of Chris ranting about
important question.
how we now have a judge that likes matcha.
So an important question that I think everybody in the shed needs to answer now.
Yeah.
And it's a very important question I'm about to ask you all,
Right.
which is, what are your views on matcha?
Oh,
And why is it a tool of the devil?
Oh my God.
Answer in the form of a postcard, I don't really care. Moving on. Alona. Alona made a barrel of monkeys.
Thank fuck.
I was so happy with this one. The
Brilliant
sugar
job.
biscuits, fondant, gingerbread crate, and like, will it work? And she's like, I've tested it.
Yeah, we had... What colour was your barrel? We had a yellow barrel for our monkeys.
I had a blue one,
Yep.
and there was a yellow one as well, but we had a blue one.
Yeah, just remember that it was so textural.
They really were.
Yeah.
And we had like the barrel of monkeys, and the other one we had
Dad
was...
probably still has it in his garage.
The other one we had as well was they were grasshoppers or crickets, I think they were. Mm-hmm. And you pushed down on their back, and they hopped, and they usually came... I don't know if the same people who made barrel of monkeys. It was the same plastic. And yeah, you push down on the back of them, and they go... Boom, and go hopping.
Oh, were they just like stand alone? Like it wasn't a game? Yeah, I remember those kind of things. That were fun.
But they were made by the same people, I'm pretty sure. Because they always... You open up... where we had the barrel of monkeys, and they were the same thing.
You remember the little Slimer men? That
Yes.
like the four hands, and you throw them at the window and they climb down.
Yeah, they'll fall down the wall.
Yeah.
Yes. That could have been a really interesting cake. A really interesting
The
biscuit.
slime hands.
Yes. Then the plus side of the barrel of monkeys was that we got Cal Wilson making internationally renowned bakers leave a camera shot as though they were monkeys. And Rachel Koo thought about it for a minute and went, yep, we're doing this.
Like, this would be something that Claire and Mel...
And Maggie would just shake her head and walk off camera, and so would Matt.
You know, maybe in the last season we might have got a little bit of monkey action, but this was bold. You know, week 2, we're into we're not even past, you know, we haven't even lost our second person yet. It's fresh.
Oh.
It was a bold move, Cal. Well done.
Now, Adam at this point in time was trying to kill Superman. The glowing kryptonite at his bench, which was macaroons. Mm. But his rendition of the Game of Life...
That was cool.
...was so damn good. It was so precise. And the bridge and the spinner worked. Sugar cookies, gingerbread, really, really iridescent green macarons.
Yes.
Macaroons. Then, bonjour. Connect 4.
Which was ostensibly Connect 1.
Now, gingerbread board and shortbread fondant tokens. And at this point, Darren goes, the game's going to be playable, right? And we're all like, yeah, not a problem. We'll come back. Another hit on the game card, a dog. This time it was a sausage dog.
He's so cute.
He was so cute. So,
what we need is more corgis, though. I'm just putting in a request. I'd like some corgis.
Yes, so then we go back to where Laura and Felicity were sharing biscuits. Like, oh, that biscuit look amazing. You want one? Yeah, sure. No problems. It was fantastic.
We really did discover Cal Wilson, the Biscuit Bandit, this week. Like, just...
Yeah, this is Laura and Felicity sharing biscuits before that.
Oh, look, sorry. Yes.
Well, Cal Wilson was stealing them all the time, including in the middle of Gab's bake. Then Neil. Now, I've never heard of his game. Nine Man's Morris.
I have.
Have you?
Yes. At first when he said it, I'm like, No, not the blacksmith waving hankies. I have heard of Nine Man's Morris.
Okay.
I can't remember where.
Darren was as bad confused as I was.
I'm assuming it was a very drunken night with folk.
You sure it wasn't a game set out by one of your relatives, distant relatives?
Probably, yeah. I do have Morrises. I'm related to Morrises.
That's what I said.
Yeah, my mum's side, she was a Morris.
So it was marshmallow and
But
it was
Welsh
malt.
Morrises.
I don't know. We'll have to find out about the game. Then Sandra. Now, Sandra had the most amazing purple
Which
icing.
technically means that any time they danced, they were Morris dancers.
Oh, no. So Sandra then had the most amazing purple icing that I think I've ever seen for her cribbage board.
Oh, yeah.
That was absolutely incredible. Like the vibrancy of that purple.
And I wonder, because my dad always sends me hankies. Is he trying to, hint that I do come from Morris dancers and I should start... Anyway, back at the ranch.
Sandra's biscuits was the Sablé Breton and a gingerbread.
Yes.
So, but again, that purple on that cribbage board was stunning.
So pretty.
Laurent then has a hit with "I've never done this before," which I like. The first thing is obviously, we usually put that on, but it's usually there for when someone says something about a really simple bake. I love the idea of Laurent going, "I've never done this before," like everybody else regularly makes board games out of biscuits.
Yeah, similar to making marshmallow. Like if you're a seasoned baker, yeah, you've probably made marshmallow. The average person like us haven't made marshmallow. But even then, I don't think I've seen seasoned bakers going, "Oh yeah, just knocked up a game of Connect 4 on the weekend. That went down a treat with the kiddies."
Then we go back to Felicity, who says, "Well, that's as hippo as they're going to be." Only in Bakeoff. Mm-hmm. Then everybody again comes back to Laurent's bench to once again ask him if the counters are going to fit into Connect 4. They don't.
No.
And then the board breaks.
At this point,
It went well.
At this point, I'm like, I think we have the person going home here, because it was just,
It was round biscuits and a really weird biscuit base with holes in it.
Yeah.
Until we cut back to poor Natalie.
Oh no.
And the what Natalie was using to glue the pieces down was drying far too quickly, so everything was bending up and it wasn't quite sitting properly.
But the thing is, I get where she was coming from, because if she went with something like an icing or something to glue it together, there's a chance that the tent is too hot that it would keep it together.
She had to take a chance with it, but obviously them's the breaks.
Yeah.
Then we got a first in history. Reem was the first person to be stressed because she was putting pieces into operation. Like, not worried about pulling them out. Reem is the first person I've ever seen stressed about putting the pieces in.
I guess you would, like all of us, you have PTSD. It's just a sound, right?
I know people who believe they got genuinely electric shock by operation. I'm like, It doesn't shock you.
But it was one of those things that I'm like, as a child, I was just so sure I was going to be electrocuted, as well as just have the shush. I had a very vivid imagination.
I just thought of a really interesting video game to try to... A really interesting board game to turn into one of these.
What?
Because it is technically a board game.
What?
Nightmare.
Yeah, it is. You know what else is technically a board game?
Yeah.
Ouija board.
Oh my god! They are. Ouija boards they're a board game.
Someone should have...
Parker Brothers.
Where's the
Parker Brothers own the patent. Anyway, the judging.
Yes.
Alona. It worked beautifully as a game. They were buttery. They had a really great flavour, and the fondant on the monkeys wasn't too sweet. Mm-hmm. There are sentences I always thought I would say. The fondant on the monkeys wasn't too sweet sounds like a code phrase. Anyway, Adam.
But the mint on the frosty
is better.
Adam,
the arrow spinner worked on the game of life, and they said the macaroon hill in particular was delicious.
Yeah.
Galia, they could see the work that went in, even though it wasn't quite what was intended. Good texture, but the biscuits unfortunately broke up and didn't quite hold up.
Yeah.
So that was really disappointing. Gav, they said
and the elephant flavour didn't come through.
No elephant at all.
No.
Gav, a lot of effort, a really good design. The darts worked quite well. This is where Rachel missed. Really good texture, but the biscuit, really, really good texture. Wonderful chew. Needed more booze. Mm-hmm. And really rich. And Of course it was. You looked at it. It was just chocolate on chocolate on chocolate. Sandra, they said that the spice level of the gingerbread was really good, but again, it needed to be thinner because it was a bit too thick for the chew.
But, God, it was pretty.
It was very pretty. I love that purple. Neil, they said there was a really interesting texture on the chocolate, which he'd used a hairdryer for, which is really clever.
Yeah.
It got that wavy texture. And because Reem came, I thought it was Reem coming. What are you doing, Neil? Because it's hair drying the chocolate.
I'd like for a moment, and all the curly-haired girls will get this. He's like, not wavy enough, pulls out the diffuser. Anyway.
They said that great cross-section of the marshmallow that he had in there was lovely. Darren didn't understand the game, and then he won, and then he thought it was great. Laura's tiles, they said, were very intricate, and the great black sesame flavour came through in hers. Gingerbread was warm, great flavour overall. Yeah. Laurent, the tokens didn't fit.
One did in one hole.
The cacao shortbread was simple but delicious. The structure had nice flavour, but everything was really sweet with the fondant, especially like on the board.
Yeah.
Felicity, the hippos were spectacular. They were referred to as the Nuzzling hippos. Raspberry and chocolate worked beautifully together.
It's quite funny because you can't nuzzle a hippo; they will eat you.
And they were really impressed with the fact that she free-handed.
Actually, they won't eat you; they'll just kill you.
Free-handed the hippos.
They're just really they're just anti-visitors. You know, like they had enough. There they are on the Nile, and then there's this random priest that comes up and goes, "Hey, have you let ISIS into your hut?" They're like, "Not again!" Like they're just sick of.
We're talking about the goddess, by the way.
Oh yeah.
I need to specify that.
Yeah. Or another one's like, "Hello, have you let Amun Ra?" Oh God, all these solicitors there every 5 minutes because there are so many gods in Egypt. And then when the Greeks arrived, it was on for young and old. Sorry.
I'm not going to do it. We're going to move on. I was going to correct you on what the Nile god was. We're not going to do that. So Natalie. Clearly,
no, I didn't say. I said when the Greeks came along.
Yeah.
But
the hippos would have been in the Nile.
No, but when the Greeks came to Egypt.
Yes.
And brought their gods with them, then there were more different priests going around soliciting. Proselytizing.
I love the fact we're having a debate about Greek versus Egyptian gods. Anyway,
yeah,
Natalie.
Proselytizing to hippos.
Natalie, as you do.
They're like, we've already got a god. She's got our face. We really do not need to. Is it Hippolyta? No. Don't look at me. You know her name.
Happy. H-A-P-Y.
Happy. I've forgotten.
Anyway,
back
Natalie was clearly backgammon.
Yeah.
The caramel was a bit messy. The biscuits were a little dry, unfortunately, as well. The orange were good. Orange ones were good, and they said you could have done more with the presentation. Reem looked really intricate. Cal then played as the buzzer. The layers of flavour were amazing, and they said raspberry and peanut, not something they're familiar with as a usual combination, but worked really well. So the star baker was Felicity, probably a very close second. Reem. They were really close. Now, the going home was interesting in this one. I don't think it was a wrong call. No. Natalie probably did have to go.
But it came down to the technical.
There were 3 bakers who I think were all really in the firing line this week. So I think Galia was really close. Laurent was really close. But unfortunately for Natalie, it's her week. So
yeah, and I honestly think it came down to the rankings in the technical.
It was really
of things,
look. It was a really, really close call. Obviously, that technical, the technical ranking. Obviously, Natalie was just behind Galia. So that sort of may have played a part in it. Also, I think it was literally the presentation aspect, and I think that maybe there was a little bit more colour on. And also, you got to remember as well, Galia's first bake was good. Yep. They really liked the first bake.
But so was Nats.
Nats they really liked too. I think maybe Galia's was, they said, they were a bit stronger on the way they responded to hers. Laurent was really lucky because he had 5, he was short biscuits in the first one.
Yeah.
His technical was better than theirs, and that's probably what saved him because his game wasn't playable.
Yeah.
So it was splitting hairs, but unfortunately for poor Nat, someone's going to go and it was Nat. So,
yeah.
Look, overall though, a really good week.
I enjoyed myself thoroughly.
Even with people going home and things not necessarily going well, there wasn't anything bad. It was really good. I loved that last challenge. I thought I've been really fast in previous years to call out things that I didn't necessarily like. Biscuit chandeliers, matcha. Obviously the biscuit dioramas that were I wasn't a fan of. Biscuit pinatas. Biscuit pinatas were a big one.
Matcha.
I'm more about the challenges they're setting. So biscuit pinatas in particular, I had to go at last year.
Yeah, I know. I'm hearing you,
but I've got to say it straight up. This was one of my favourites.
Solid week.
Absolutely solid week.
Yeah. Really
good choices, really good options, and really well done by the bakers. Overall, a great episode.
Yeah.
That's going to do us for this week. We will be back next week, or probably a little bit earlier. Wink, wink. So please, if you haven't listened to our first episode, why you started here, go back and listen to the first episode. If you haven't listened to our interview with Guillermo, please go back and listen to that.
Yeah.
And I mean, who knows what might pop up between now and episode 3? I don't know. If anyone can guess, wink. So until next time, I'm still Chris.
And I'm still Kristie.
And we will catch you all later.
Hungry, hungry hippos.